all right. Bungie just dropped a massive article detailing Season 23 weapon tuning, and there's some pretty crazy stuff that we're going to cover in this. So let's go ahead and jump into it. We got Dev Insights, Season 23 weapon tuning preview. Hi, all. It's the weapon teams here with a look at the Season 23 weapon changes. While we do have a few PvP changes in here for you to see, we wanted to share a deeper look at the PvE changes specifically, which definitely is good. I like to see this. We've already heard a little bit of a preview of what's going on, but now we're getting the in-depth look because we're obviously like about a month away from Season 23. When we look at weapon balance and PvE, we look at several things and ask ourselves some questions. This isn't an exhaustive list, just some common ones. All right. What is the intended role for the weapon? Got it. What ammo type does the weapon use? How safe is the weapon? How safe is it to use the weapon? How easy is the weapon to use? How much damage per second does it do compared to other weapon options? Got it. When we take all these answers to the above all when we take all the answers to the above questions, we can holistically see if a weapon is potentially over or underperforming in the sandbox within these bounds. These questions, of course, assume that we have a solid baseline to compare to. So one of the very first things we need to do is look at which weapons answer the above questions in a satisfactory manner. Got it. All right. Let's take auto rifles, for example. Should be pretty spicy. Their intended role is mostly focused on ad clear as opposed to major killers, burst DPS, or extended DPS. You heard it here. I'm telling you, stop using auto rifles for boss DPS. Bungie said so. They all use primary ammo for now? Winky face? What's that all about? They all use primary ammo for now? Is there going to be an auto rifle that has special ammo coming out in the future? They are moderately safe to use, as close to mid-range options allow you to be relatively further away from the combatants, although for the most part, they're not as safe as scout rifles, hand cannons, or pulse rifles. They're generally safer than sidearms and submachine guns. Got it. They are also relatively easy to use, with less punishment for missing individual shots and a lower resilience on critical hits than pulse rifles, scouts, bows, and hand cannons, while being at a bit more reliant than SMGs. They currently deal about 25% less damage, DPS rather, to minor combatants than SMGs. Since they are safer to use than SMGs, given their extra range, it makes sense for them to deal less damage. However, given they are more reliant on headshots, this price seems a bit high in the current sandbox. Oh, talking about an auto rifle meta in PvE potentially? That'd be pretty cool. Given these values, we can take an educated decision on how to balance auto rifles. This is, of course, only the first step in the balance process. After we make a change, we will playtest it extensively with A/B comparisons to get a better idea how it feels in game and to make sure we have not missed the mark with our change. Sometimes we realize after playtesting that a change is not enough, and we will take a second pass in a future release to move the weapon closer to the ideal target. This process in part helped to lead our decision to Season 23 to increase their damage versus minor combatants by 10%. This should narrow the gap in effectiveness between SMGs and auto rifles without overstepping their bounds and invalidating of another class of weapon. We hope this provides useful insights into how we look at balancing weapons for PvE and that it will help you to better understand many of the changes that we will be discussing below. That does make a lot of sense, so I like that so far. Weapon archetypes general, we discovered a couple weapons with mistimed ammunition loading animations, updating Drang and Zali's Bane to load ammo correct. Yes, this is actually so good. Zali's Bane, the hand cannon from King's Fall, has the most bizarre reload. I swear it takes like forever. Even if you put like reload mods on it, it just feels off. So I'm actually really excited about that one. Zali's Bane is about to be, that's huge for Zali's Bane. And it's one of the best hand cannons in the game with double damage perks. Auto rifles. Auto rifle DPS is generally in a pretty good place, but they were lagging slightly behind when it came to damage against minor combatants. Increased damage against minor red bar combatants by 10%. Oh, all right. Auto rifle buff there in Season 23. Pulse rifles. Pulse rifle DPS in PvE is comparable to scout rifle damage, but in the new sandbox, they are more closely aligned with hand cannons and auto rifles in terms of range. As such, we have increased their damage against minor and major combatants to move them closer to the other mid-range options, and we will continue to monitor them to see how this changes their effectiveness. Increased damage against minor and major combatants by 12.5%. Got it. Pulse rifle buff, big pulse rifle buff for PvE. Glaives. All right, this one should be pretty spicy. We wanted to improve how good it feels to use glaives as both a melee and projectile weapon. We also wanted to increase the uptime of the shield without pushing it too far into the realm of being overpowered. As such, we have made changes to all three aspects of Glaives. Projectiles. Glaive projectiles were generally just slow enough that they felt unreliable to use against fast-moving targets, and Impulse Amplifier was seen as a must-have perk for Glaive usage in PvP. Meanwhile, in PvE, the Glaive projectiles felt underpowered compared to the other special ammo options like fusion rifles and shotguns, so we gave Glaives a healthy portion of Impulse Amplifier buff at base and increased their damage in PvE by a substantial amount to make them feel more worthy of their limited ammo. In PvP, the increased projectile speed has greatly improved their ease of use, so we brought the damage dealt by the projectile down just a bit to keep Glaives in line. Oh, thank God. Can you imagine Glaives being the meta in PvP? Everyone running around shooting the projectile and... Oh no, I don't want that. Just melee lunging with Glaives. Increase projectile speed by 30%. Increase projectile damage in PvE by 25%. Decrease projectile damage in PvP. Aggressives do 125, adaptives 113, rapid fires 101. Melee, the long delay between firing the projectile and being able to melee made Glaives feel clunky and unintuitive to use, so we have reduced that delay to a more manageable amount. This delay exists so that people cannot dive on the other players and fire then melee a single event, but 3/4 of the second was definitely more conservative than what we needed to prevent that behavior. It should now feel far more intuitive to shoot a projectile and follow up with a melee attack without it feeling overly frustrating to fight someone using that combination. Okay. Reduce the delay after firing before you can melee from 0.5 seconds to 0.2 seconds. Interesting. So you're going to do a little wombo combo there with your Glaive. Shields, relying on dealing damage with a projectile to grant shield energy, was a choice made to limit the amount of uptime the highly damage resistant shields had in Crucible and in endgame PvE content. Unfortunately, it effectively gated a significant portion of the weapon's effectiveness and made using a Glaive without energy feel like you were wielding half a weapon. We wanted to increase the uptime of the shield so you could get a little bit more of the weapon fantasy to shine through, but we had to be careful not to give too much or allow the shield to become too strong in competitive content. Made the shield energy now recharge passively when the Glaive is held at a rate of 1% per second. Set up the base Glaive shield damage resistance to be tiered to PvP. Got it. Base Glaive shield damage resistance remains at 50%. Damage resistance against primary ammo weapons and melee attacks has been reduced to 30%. Got it. So adjusting the shield a little bit. Interesting. We'll see how Glaives feel after all these changes. Let me know your thoughts down below. You've got sniper rifles. We're continuing our trend of moving sniper rifles up by small amounts at a time to make sure we do not upset the encounter balance in PvE. Increase sniper rifle PvE damage with a flat buff of 15%. This also applies to exotic sniper rifles that use heavy ammo. Got it. 15% sniper rifle buff, sniper rifle meta for DPS potentially. Snipers are going to be definitely back and definitely stronger with that. His Naga's Burn is about to go hard again. Exotic weapons. Vex Mythoclast, which is in the gameplay behind me here. Although Vex received both a range buff and a PvE damage buff in the Season of the Witch, we believe it has additional room to grow in PvE and find a unique role. We have increased damage against minor and boss combatants and are going to be experimenting with a different style of anti-champion gameplay. Interesting. Instead of having an intrinsic anti-champion perk, we are massively increasing the damage that the linear fusion rifle mode deals to all champions. This places it in the unique space of being more of a Swiss Army knife and less of a specialist. We envision it as a weapon you can take into any activity, regardless of which champion type is present, and still have it be an effective tool, especially when utilized in concert with other anti-champion abilities. Wow, that sounds actually really sick. So Vex Mythoclast is about to hit really hard. You can see the gameplay behind me. I'm actually using this. Ironically, I didn't set this up intentionally. But when I'm using this, I'm using it in Master Crota, and you clear the ads with it, and then you get the linear fusion rifle shots. There's really not anything to do with them. I was just shooting the wizards with them. But now they're going to be hitting those champs really hard, and that's actually pretty cool. We've got increased damage versus minor, red bar combatants 10%, bosses by 25%, champions by 200%. 200% increase to champions when the linear fusion rifle, that's gonna hit hard. Holy crap. Revision 0. As a second part of our anti-champion experiment, we're also increasing Revision 0's damage versus champions, although by a much lower amount, since the weapon also retains its intrinsic anti-barrier. Increased damage versus champions by 100% for Revision 0. Wow. Revision 0 is about to hit these champs hard as well too. Thorn, and we know we're getting a catalyst with this. In Season 23, Thorn will be getting both a catalyst to bring its strength up in PvP, and a change to the base behavior to make it more fun to use in PvE. Picking up a Remnant can overflow the magazine up to 40 rounds max. Whoa, 40 rounds? Catalyst, plus 20 range, plus 10 stability. Getting kills or picking up a Remnant grants additional range, handling, and mobility. Wow. So Thorn Catalyst is about to go hard. Very cool. Class Glaives. Alongside the Glaive rework mentioned above, we have also done some tuning on the exotic Glaives introduced in the Witch Queen. The below changes are for all 3 Glaives to make using their exotic functionality both more forgiving and more understandable. Grant 1 ammo when you activate the perk, so you can use it even if you are out of ammo. No longer passively drains shield energy when you special reload to activate the perk. No longer deactivated by reloading or stowing the weapon. Got it. So those 3 exotic class Glaives, those things have been, I just recently unlocked them. Those things have been kind of trash for a while. It would be nice if they were a little bit stronger, but the Titan one's kind of fun though. Then we have Edge of Intent Warlock. Edge of Intent seemed like it was begging for some Solar 3.0 interaction instead of the previous generic healing effect. A larger AoE helps it reach more nearby allies too. Interesting. Change the effect of the healing turret projectiles to grant cures and provide restoration. Increase the AoE radius to 8 meters to benefit more allies. Increase its magazine size from 4 to 5. Wow, very nice. Edge of Intent's about to go hard for being a healer. That could be pretty cool. Edge of Action Titan. Oh gosh. They're really going through and buffing all these classic specific glaives and all glaives in general. About to be a glaive season. We wanted to make the baby bubble more effective in endgame content, so it now provides some benefits to weapons just for passing through it, even if you do not remain inside. Interesting. Passing through the bubble now grants bonus reload handling and a small amount of stacking bonus damage in addition to the overshield. Whoa. Okay. Reduce the health of the bubble from 8,000 to 2,400 to account for the increased uptime and improved effects. All right, so the bubble's going to get popped a little bit faster then. Very interesting. Very, very interesting. Titans, I want to we got to create a Titan bubble build where we're popping bubbles and then we're making glaive bubbles and there's just purple bubbles everywhere. The bubble build. Edge of Concurrence Hunter. The glaive changes mentioned above already made this quite solid, but we felt that Lightning Seeker presented a fun opportunity for an Arc 3.0 interaction. Lightning Seeker now jolts targets on impact. Reduce the direct damage of Lightning Seeker to account for the free ammo granted. Got it. Jolting targets now. That should be pretty good. Should be pretty good. Class specific exotic glaives. Looks like it's a pretty spicy update. I've got Osteostriga, the exotic SMG here. Osteo has been, quite frankly, far too powerful for the ease of use it provides when it comes to ad clear and PvE. That's true. You could literally just hit fire this thing into a pile of ads and it just, spreads the poison everywhere and kills everything. It has more range than most other SMGs, does not require kills, and does not rely heavily on precision aim to activate one of the strongest AoEs we've ever had in Destiny. In addition, the lingering poison damage has benefited from the damage scaler that SMGs get in PvE content, which was intended to buff SMG's direct impact damage. All right, this does not sound good. This sounds like Osteo is about to get nerfed, which is totally unnecessary, but okay. The scalar, which is one of the highest scalars of any weapon type in the game, is pushing the poison damage to such an extreme level that it's been difficult for any other weapon to compete in the ad clear role. While it is likely that this change will not move the needle on Osteo by a substantial amount, it will at least be slightly less of an outlier compared to other ad clear weapons. To preempt the argument, buffing the other weapons to the same level would be power creep to an extreme degree and very unhealthy for the game as a whole, so it's not something we are going to explore. This is something that people bring up all the time, which is that why are you buffing this one thing? Why are you nerfing this one thing? Why don't you just buff all the other things? Which obviously would be kind of an issue there. I don't really feel like Osteo has been that ridiculously OP. I mean, I haven't even used this thing in like a year, but I know it's good, but it's not like that good. Like usually using my exotic for something else, but I don't know. Especially when you have to do like fight champions, it's like you don't even use Osteo lately. Remove the SMG damage bonus scaler that was affecting the poison damage. This brings Osteo Striga poison down to match standard necrotic grip poison. Though as an exotic, it will still deal 40% bonus damage against minors. Got it. That's fine. Small nerf to Osteo. I don't think anyone's too upset about that. Salvation's Grip. The exotic stasis grenade launcher Heavy grenade launcher. Placed a speed limit on the detonation when damaging stasis crystals. This will help prevent the detonation from being able to shatter too many crystals on a single frame, which would sometimes kick the player to orbit with an error code. Really? So Salvation's Grip was doing Telesto things, and they decided to remove that. Seems like it makes sense. Winter Bite. We did not want to leave Winter Bite out of the Glaive Improvement Pass, so we made it a little stronger and a little bit less lethal to the user. Increased the detonation damage of the large projectile by 25%. The self-damage blast radius has been halved, and the self-damage has been reduced. Wow, so a pretty substantial buff to Winter Bite as well. They're really trying to push these glaives up in the usage rates, and I'm scared. Perks, we've got Danger Zone. We made a small change to how Danger Zone works on rocket launchers. You can figure it out for yourself when Season 23 drops. No, they're giving us... We're going to have to see what Danger Zone does. Will it matter, though? Sometimes they do these things where they, like, give us a hint and then they change it, and it's not any good anyways. So, hopefully Danger Zone is actually good. Heavy Grip. We discovered that the Heavy Grip perk was slightly increasing incoming flinch. This was not intended, so we removed it. Interesting. Precision Instrument. The difference between Precision Instrument and Enhanced Precision Instrument was barely noticeable in practice, so we wanted to differentiate the two a bit. We increased Enhanced Precision Instrument bonus at max stacks from 26% to 30%. All right. Kinetic Tremors. We wanted to make the activation requirements more consistent across archetypes, so we changed the number of hits needed to trigger on some weapons. This was really strange. You would use Kinetic Tremors on like a sidearm and then use it on a scout rifle, and it was a very different amount of bullets needed, and I thought that was odd. They should just make it uniform across all archetypes the same. Pulse Rifles, common reduced from 12 to 11, enhanced increases from 9 to 10. Non-burst sidearms, common reduced from 12 to 8, enhanced reduced from 9 to 7. Yeah, even like the difference of numbers, like they should just make it the same. It should just be Kinetic Tremors procs on 6 hits, no matter what the weapon or something. It just seems odd. It is a strong perk, but it's not one that people are really using that much right now. We've got Future. In Season 23 mid-season patch and the patch that will launch in the final shape, we will have a host of new changes for you to try. Some highlights for you to look forward are near future bow tuning in PvP. Additional weapon tuning for Checkmate aimed at promoting a better diversity of weapons. All right. Far future, we got Necrochasm will be getting a buff to extend the duration of the poison damage over time effect it applies from the Cursed Thrall explosion. It will also have a new catalyst called One for Thrall, which grants a moderate period of increased damage range and aim assist after you damage 3 enemies in quick succession. Nice. Damaging 3 more enemies while the perk is active refreshes the timer. Buffs to Truth, Colony, Dead Man's Tale, as well as other exotic weapons. Heavy grenade launchers will get a substantial inventory buff. Very nice. Heavy grenade launchers getting a substantial inventory buff means that GLs could become the DPS meta. They could overtake rockets in certain encounters. That's actually really, really exciting, especially for that Trials GL. That thing is really potent, really powerful. And we've got buffs to the Truth. The Truth exotic rocket launcher has been so has been so trash, honestly, for so long now that a buff to it feels beyond necessary. And hopefully they give the Truth a real buff that makes it good, because this thing used to be so fun to use in like Destiny 1. I feel like it's just been more or less power crept by everything else. Like all the other rocket launchers just do a bunch of other crazy stuff, whether that's, auto loading or whatever it is. They've got crazy damage perks on them, right? Truth just has nothing good going for it. And they should buff it. You know what they should do? They should buff it so that it has that crazy D1 tracking where it would loop around the map and stuff. That would be really nice. I'd be a huge fan of that. As far as that goes, I'm excited for that. I don't know about a colony buff. I'm not sure if I'm looking forward to that. DMT, you know what? We don't need to buff that. Leave DMT alone. We already have a DMT meta. We don't need that again. Necrochasm buff is awesome. Bow tuning in PvP, as long as they're talking about nerfing bows, then I'm cool with that. The PvE changes to these perks, Kinetic Tremors, Heavy Grip, that's all good stuff. Danger Zone, how that's going to work inside for rockets, I don't think that's going to be any good, right? There's no way that's actually going to be good. I mean, they might... No, Danger Zone hasn't been a good perk for so long. I don't know what they're going to possibly do to make it good, but we'll see. I'll be slightly optimistic there, but we've got Winter Bite getting us buff along with the other glaives. Salvation's Grip getting some adjustment to it. Osteo getting a small nerf for literally no reason. The 3 exotic class glaives getting their buffs, which is very exciting and very good stuff. All really cool stuff. Definitely an awesome article. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Make sure to subscribe if you enjoyed, smash the like button, and click on the screen here to watch another video from the channel. I'll see you in the next one. Later.